Hello, welcome to Monday Night's Hotline Live, brought to you by Record Sport and NordVPN. Your chance to have the best top-tier cybersecurity for the price of a cup of coffee every month.
You've used that one a few times now.
I think it's the best one. It sums up the...
Hit the refresh button in your NordVPN and get a new one.
Let's try. Mick,
Can
how
you do
you
that?
doing? I'm just going to block Keith out. Mick, how's it going?
I'm good. Can we get? There's NordVPN security. I also apply to football stadiums. I know they're very good, but can they do that as well?
It's definitely worth asking. I think we should put that to them. Keith,
look, serious note. Just before we came on air, Dan, it's been confirmed by Police Scotland that a major investigation has been launched around the events at Ibrox on Sunday afternoon. They're calling it Operation Moonglint.
Moonglint?
Yeah, I don't know whether they've picked that. Moon Howlers, maybe. No, Operation Moonglint. They revealed some further details, injuries to stewards, to police officers, and a 10-year-old boy was hit by a coin as well, sustained an injury. So, look, utter mayhem, as you can see on the screen there. But the police are saying, if you're on that pitch, expect to get a chap at the door. Now, that's all very well and good. I hope that it's more than just words, because as we talked about the other night, there has to be more from whether it's the authorities, the judicial system. If people are going to step onto a football pitch and break the law, they have to understand there's a consequence. It seems to me that this entitled generation seem to believe there's no consequence to anything they do. So we've got banning orders, we've got plenty of cops. Let's go and do something about it, and get these people out of our stadiums. That would seem like an appropriate reaction. I also believe, by the way, just to add to that, I believe that the chief executive of the SFA, Ian Maxwell, will also meet with police as part of this operation this week. So this will gather momentum, this will gather steam, and it could have the potential to be actually a watershed moment. I've written a column for tomorrow, Dan, and I'm very critical of the sort of ultra culture and the impact it's having on the Scottish game. I thought we saw it with our own eyes yesterday, exactly what that looks like at both ends of the ground, it has to be said. I just wonder if it's time to really take this issue seriously. I wonder if it might be time for the authorities to start look at putting together some sort of code of conduct which has to be adhered to. And if it's not, look, the ultras won't care about that. Of course they won't. Yeah. They might start caring if it means points getting deducted from their team. And the only reason, because it seems to me that they believe that they're the big event, they're the big show. That's fine. But see, when you're surrounded by grown adults who have a low tolerance level for damage being done to their team's chances of winning whatever particular tournament they might be entering into, then I believe what you get is an element of self-policing among supporters. And if these kids don't care about, any consequences from the police or from the security inside the stadium, they might care if they're surrounded by grown men who are not at all pleased with the behaviour, and especially if that impacts on their team's position in whatever table.
But I mean, unsurprisingly, we've got plenty of comments on this coming in. If you want to get involved in the conversation, please do so. Mark says, Cupboards wearing mask perfectly sums up Rangers. Mick, before we come on, I said to Keith, who actually looks in the mirror before they go to the football and says, right, wallet, keys, balaclava. I mean, you need to really have a long, hard look at yourself if you're going to football in a balaclava.
Yeah. Listen, people talking people looking in the mirror before they go out. I better keep my mouth shut. I mean, it's the way I leave the house sometimes. I can't comment on anyone. But listen, I've got to be serious.
But you've not got your kneecap balaclava on, Mick.
No, I don't. That's true. Listen, I'm very serious tonight. I've got even my glasses on, so I'm definitely a serious show tonight. So I'm being very serious. Listen, I think what we also have to bear in mind before we get into this, the meat and bones, all this is that this is not the majority, right? This is a few hundred absolute brain dead idiots on all sides who are ruining it for everybody.
Correct.
This we are talking about. It's not small numbers. Like, we're talking about these clubs have got such huge fan bases and they're big, huge crowds at these games. And we're talking a couple of hundred that are causing the problems here, because very much the majority want to go to the game. They want to wind up their rivals and all that stuff. And listen, we can get into the sing songs and all that stuff, right? But by and large, they want to go to the game, hate their rivals, win the game, celebrate, go for a pint up the road, and the next day go out to work and talk to the guy who's the rival supporter and wind them up all week, and vice versa. That's the majority of the country. This wee section who are louder than anyone, are causing more hassle than anyone, and they're actually spoiling it for everyone, because we're getting back to this was meant to be a kind of dummy run as such, to go back to kind of full allocations. I think it'd be a shame, but listen, I think it's not going to happen now. I think that idea now can go right out the window, and it's a shame because the vast majority of fans on both sides want to go to these games home and away and support their team and get back to where they were for decades. Not going to happen now. It's just not going to happen because the police are not going to allow it. The police need to do their investigation. Listen, talk about Operation Moonglint. Is that what you called it there?
Moonglint, yeah.
Well, I mean, what was it? Operation Epic Fury's American one. This is Operation Epic Fail. The police in Sweden failed on Sunday because, and the evidence is in front of us, because they didn't contain the crowds. The possibility, this is, the first time they went back to 7,500 away fans, and it wasn't contained properly. Listen, I'm not saying you can say fans are blameless for all this behaviour, but it's there to be policed, and it wasn't done properly because the evidence is in front of us. Because some fans got in the pitch and were throwing things and doing the dummy fighting thing. Some of them were actually fighting, but the majority of them were doing the kind of the shadow boxing thing, running 70 yards, hold my jacket, hold my back routine, and running back. Aye, listen, I think we can go through the ins and outs of what happened. But it was a failure. It was a failure of policing the failure assured. And by the way, you walk into Ibrox and Parkhead for these games, it's like a dystopian nightmare. There's that many officials, that many police and horseback and police cars and stewards. Literally, there's more luminous jackets than a boy 90s rave. Honestly, and yet this still happened. So that has to be looked at as well. Because
Matt, can I come in there, right?
Yeah.
See what you recall. I certainly recall, and it's been this way for as long as I can remember. If you're at, I think they call it a Category A game, if you're at one of these, on almost every occasion that I can remember being at one, you would see 5 minutes from the end of the game, coming out of two corners of the ground, a wall of yellow cops, with a high vis, and they would completely go around the parameter of the pitch and form a wall at the point where the access can be made to get from the stand onto the playing surface. I wasn't there obviously yesterday. I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. And by the way, this is now, so you've got a potential for mayhem because of the fixture, just because of the fixture itself, because of the fact that also, more Celtic fans inside the stadium. It's always going to have the potential to be volatile, but it goes to the most extreme part. It's a penalty shootout to decide who goes through. I cannot believe that there wasn't that yellow line all the way around the parameter of the pitch. That should have been in place. And if it wasn't, then you're absolutely right, Mick. That's a failure. It's a failure of policing. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean that anyone should be condoning what actually happened. But why wasn't that there? Because I've seen it all through my life of watching and going to games like this. That the stream that comes out from two corners of the ground, and they walk around and they encircle the place. If that's not there, then why wasn't it there?
Yeah, listen, was it 9 arrests on the day and around the match, and God knows how many are in the city the rest of the day. But you almost think that there should be dozens of wagons lined up outside the street, and like anyone who steps foot on the pitch, for no matter what reason, you're in the back of the van. I don't know if you can arrest. I don't think you can arrest 200 people at one time, but you can get 50, 60, 70 in the back of a van and ruin their weekend. So I don't know. Listen, I'm not. I've got a difficult job, but I'm watching it unfold, and you can see Celtic fans had on the pitch, and it wasn't. They didn't invade the pitch to go and attack Rangers fans. They were on the pitch celebrating. It was getting selfies with players and all that stuff, and grabbing and the manager and all that. It wasn't there was some goading and all that stuff from afar, but there wasn't an advance to go and combat anyone. But obviously that antagonised the other end of the pitch, thinking they're on our patch and they're celebrating. We're getting on, and a wee band broke onto through the kind of security cordon at that end, and then they kind of stood around thinking, well, we managed to get through. What happens now? And they almost
Mick, that was a wee Spider-Man team that came on. Them. Well, 5 or 6 of them managed,
and then they get confused what to do next. They broke the cordon.
They thought they were getting honours. They expected to turn around and see thousands of their mates. And they were all standing back in the stand. Then it was kind of one of them. I thought the kiosk. Well, have I gone the wrong way for the kiosk, guys? And then they kind of went back in. And then it was when the older guy, I think he's 47-year-old, jumps on and tackles the Celtic dugout with one of the Martin O'Neill's backroom staff. That seemed to me to then be the trigger that. The ones that had sort of breached it and thought about coming on and then thought better of it, then they all come on. And they all the wee Spider-Man gimpy guys.
But at the point of the first one's breakthrough, that should be reinforced, and there should be more action taken. It's obviously there's a leak in that line that had to be filled and didn't do it. And then, like you say, see that part, see when there's guys wrestling silly background team at the ground and all that stuff, and there's folks scrapping, there's the wee individual scraps breaking out. At that point, you genuinely think this has got potential to turn into something absolutely generational bad. And my first thought was, I looked up and Martin O'Neill's in the thick of it at one end, and you're thinking he's a 74-year-old man in there. And there's punters on to he's trying off the pitch, and the Celtic official trying to pitch. This time there's dozens coming on the pitch as well, and you're thinking this has the potential to go so badly. And actually, it didn't really. And you look back, it happened quite quickly. And like you say, that the vast majority of the guys in the pitch had the kind of what happens now moment, and then just jogged back to the stands in a kind of panic. But it was ugly. It was unnecessary, and it was embarrassing because, listen, we've had so much to kind of enjoy this season in Scottish football, and the world. Listen, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but a lot of the world are watching and going, "This is worth seeing this year." There's something happening in Scotland. Listen, we know the quality's not phenomenal, but the drama's great. It's exciting. Last week we had an epic derby, and people are talking about it beyond our borders. And then this week we've got these clips getting shared around the world. I mean, your footage from yesterday, Dan, your footage from the gantry around the world. I see it get picked up by things like Barstool Sports in America. 10 million followers in America.
Yeah,
and they're watching and they're saying things like that. This is European soccer. This is how mad it is, right? You're thinking, is that really what we want to portray? Is really these wee guys wearing Spider-Man masks and throwing flares into the stand, chucking things and vapes flying and coins flying. And staff getting wrestled to the ground, you're like, is this really what we're after? Is this? But the problem we've got is that, see this wee minority we're talking about, you can't shame them. They can't. Rangers and Celtic have been battling these wee groups for years, and it used to be, I think, like almost a kind of like, you could shame a section of fans who misbehave because the wider community would say, right, we're not having this. But these guys, they almost take enjoyment of the notoriety. They'll be sitting today, going over the videos and sharing it on their WhatsApps and going like, you know what, this is the boy getting fly kicked in the head. This is great. It's almost like that. They'll absolutely be. I mean, they're literally sitting in a bone in their own soil bath and lapping it up, loving it today. They are. Mm-hmm. So therefore,
but this is the problem.
Salvation.
I think you're
this is the problem with the ultra culture, because their very reason for being is to shock and to offend and to be as obnoxious as they possibly. And see, what have they done? What have the rivals done? Oh, they've gone really low. They've got on the kind of, all right, how do we go? How do we sink lower than that? How do we be more offensive, more obnoxious? And that's the whole point. And that's why it's something that needs to be tackled, because we're in a race to the bottom with this sort of behaviour. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing who can be the more offensive, who can be the bigger louts.
Yeah.
And as you said, Mike, it's ruining it for the ordinary fan that just wants to go along and watch a game of football and enjoy it.
This is the problem. Is they don't get us. I say their front page today was shameful, but that's what I'm saying. They're shameless. They can't be shamed. I mean, listen, Celtic Rangers Celtic had been begging them to behave in Europe, and the fines are coming piling in every week. and nothing changes. Rangers had a section of their stand closed for a European game, not still singing the song, still don't care, and defiantly going on. They cannot be shamed. They don't care.
It's an interesting one for how the American owners deal with what they saw at the weekend.
Yeah, they're going.
I hope they're really firm.
I think that at some point the clubs are going to say, right, we've tolerated these groups because they bring the noise and atmosphere and all these things, but they can't tolerate this stuff. They can't. So it's going to be chaps in the door from the police, banning orders, lifetime bans, you name it. And it is, and as the majority, I think, on both sides will go, you know what, we could do without this. This is because the majority of people want to go to the game of football and enjoy the football. They want to take their families. All right, they know that the derby has historically, listen, by the way, it's always had that toxic side to it. Always. Listen, I grew up in the 80s, and like the city was a no-go area in these kind of games. But for a while, it was contained.
The 70s, surely.
Well, no. Might look at it. I was early the 80s. I only sneaked in at the 70s the last 6 months. But the city's no-go area. But then for a while, in the late 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the games itself were contained and relatively safe for a long time. And the trouble always happened around in the cities and afterwards in the pubs. And that's not the clubs. I mean, that's nothing they can. I mean, that's just societal. It happened. I remember I worked in local papers 25 years ago. I used to phone the Monday morning, the local cop liaison, to get the update on the arrests at the weekend. And this guy is a great guy. He was the south side of Glasgow. And he goes, there was more arrests in Glasgow this weekend than there was in Fallujah, which was during the Iraq War.
What the hell?
Great headline. It was a great headline. But that's what he was kind of saying. Oh, it was mayhem. 190 arrests in the city and all that stuff. That's it used to be away from the stadium, but now it's coming into the stadium. Different matter, because people are paying 55 quid to go and watch a game of football, and they don't need to see all that kind of nonsense. They don't need to get involved with people running the pitch and throwing flares or graffiti on walls or trashing places. Don't need it. You wouldn't go to the cinema to do it. Do you know what I mean? Pretty pop with it. So they need to cut this element out. They're ruining it for the rest.
We've got millions of comments coming in on this, and look, obviously the show, the Hotline Live, is about the fans, but I don't know about you guys. Davey in the comments simply says, "Can we talk about football yet?" I mean, it's a great idea. The comments basically, if you're a Celtic fan, it was Rangers' fault. If you're a Rangers fan, it was Celtic's fault. So, I mean, look, let's talk about football, guys. Why not?
There is one last thing that I think needs to be addressed, right? So the Green Brigade have been banned from Celtic Park, and yet the Green Brigade had banners inside the Broomloan stand yesterday. And I think that's an issue that will have to be explored, because either they bought tickets directly from Celtic and they've been outlawed by their own club and not allowed inside their own stadium, and yet they were in the way end at Ibrox. So, and we've seen footage, we've all seen it now, 24 hours on, of what was going on behind the scenes and at the turnstiles and all this. People running through turnstiles and evading, the security staff and all this. That needs to be explained, because either these people were sold tickets for that end, or they were the ones that we've seen the footage of. But either way, what sort of madness is this? It's, and, both clubs have got their issues. Both clubs, I think one of the comments said there, they sort of pandered to this element that's within their support. And ultimately, where's Peter Lawwell right now? Peter Lawwell, a guy that they should probably be building statues to outside Celtic Park, given the amount of trophies that were piled up during his 2 stints, kind of overseeing the thing. And he might never be able to set foot back in Celtic Park, because he challenged the Ultras. Ultimately, he helped to facilitate them and give them a part of the stadium and all this. But ultimately, he created the monster. He fed the monster. The monster get fat and bloated on its own ego. And then when they were challenged, the monster turned around and ate Peter Lawwell up. That's what happens. And Rangers have got the same issues. In fact, every club, and I know it's daft, right? Because I look at, and I'm sure people will say, Motherwell, we've got Ultras. There's no harm done here. St Johnstone's got ultras. Now, I don't know if they're going to run about setting combine harvesters on fire, but Hearts have got ultras. St Mirren, they seem to be popping up all over Scottish football, right? And I get it that people will say, well, our ultras are nothing like their ultras. The big two there, they're causing mayhem. You know what? Eventually, given that the culture and given that the motto is to be more offensive than the other guys, eventually they'll get there. Scottish football's probably got an opportunity to nip all this in the bud right now. Whether or not it takes it, it's a shot at an open goal for me. Who knows? We'll put it in the back of the net.
Like I say, guys, tons of comments coming in. A lot of people agreeing with you in the comments, Keith. That kind of leaves me feeling a bit unsettled. Everyone agreeing with Keith.
Well, that's leaving me unsettled.
But on the football, Gianni, our old pal Gianni's been in touch, Keith. He says if Danny Rowe loses the first Old Firm game next season, doesn't win the league, the daggers will be out again, the Rangers' way. I was thinking
100%, he's right. I hate to say
this,
but Gianni's actually finally made a good point.
I was thinking about this overnight, and I made the point on last night's hotline, Mick, that Celtic, it was basically a Celtic B team yesterday. You know, Engels, McGregor, Tierney, Schmeichel, Jota, Osman, Carter Vickers, all missing, and Rangers still couldn't get over the line at home.
Yeah. Listen, Gianni, let's cross it this season first before we get to next season. We've got plenty of players for the next.
Very true.
Yeah, listen. There's two ways to see it, right? I mean, Celtic, this Rangers team couldn't get the better of Celtic at their worst over 2 weekends. I mean, blowing a 2-goal lead and losing out 3 points that they needed in the league game, and then going out the cup to probably the worst Celtic team for about 30 years, right? So I can understand why a lot of Rangers fans have been in the depths of despair. However, you could look at it and say they're a last-minute penalty kick and a penalty kick shootout away from 2 wins, and it's a whole different picture. So that you could argue they're close. What the argument I think against that is that it comes down to bottle. If you do it twice and don't get over the line in these games, it's down to the kind of producing the goods when it matters, and Rangers haven't produced the goods when it mattered. I don't think Rangers played particularly well on Sunday. I thought they were. I thought in the final third they're a bit pedestrian. They're playing the ball. I thought that the shape was good. The winning the ball, the pitch was good. I thought they caused Celtic constant problems, but Celtic defended their box terrifically, and Rangers couldn't find a plan B to get the better of them. That's the problem I've got with Rangers right now. They're very one-dimensional. If that dimension doesn't work, they've got a problem.
Yeah.
It seems strange to me that Danny Rowe has got Rangers. We're talking about back in the 80s. He's got them playing a bit like a team from the 80s. If you're going to spend 45 million quid on a squad, I know we only spent about 20 of it in the January, but it seems a lot of money to be playing like Wimbledon 1987. So I need to see more from Rangers in terms of dynamism and ability to play around corners and unpick teams that play a low block, because they've struggled against it in recent weeks, and we've seen it, and it's cost them big time. They've dropped 4 draws in 6 games in the league, and they're now up against it in the title race and out at the Scottish Cup and facing the prospect of no trophies. But I do at the same time think they might not be far away. Rangers are a team. It's still a team that's in a work in progress, and it needs more work. I think the damage from last summer still hasn't been fully repaired, and it's going to take another couple of windows. Whether or not they get time, that's always the debate. Celtic, on the other hand, are hanging on with the skin in their teeth, a bit like Sunday. Somebody summed up their kind of season really, just getting through by hook or by crook, playing on sheer desire, relying on guys with experience to get the job done, and last gasp heroics. That's not a sustainable model for Celtic either. It might get them a trophy or two in the next few weeks, but that's the future. That's a whole new ball game where they go. Rangers, I think, are on a steady incline. There's been a few bumps. This has been a bad week for them, no doubt about it, and it throws up more questions than answers about the manager and the squad. But you could argue they're no far away. Celtic are getting away with it right now and doing what they can. And impressively so by. I'm not being disparaging with Celtic, because there is a certain admiration the way they're doing, what they've got. Because that's not a Celtic team. Celtic offered nothing going forward on Sunday. Nothing. Possession is always atrocious. Some of the players that were on the pitch shouldn't have been either a Celtic jersey, and yet they still get done on sheer will. And you got to hand that to them as well.
Aye. And for them to come through, Mick, that 4-game run that we mentioned, 3 wins and a draw, is pretty remarkable. But we're getting lots of comments into that effect as well. The Blue Baron says Rangers had 24 shots, Celtic had 1. It was a freak result. Maka says, let's not be mistaken here. Rangers bossed the game. It was a lucky win for Celtic, defended well, but one-sided as it gets. Marzuno says Martin O'Neill's put them out both cups and finished the league challenge. That's the facts. I mean, it is all about results, I guess, Keith. But I would counter what I said about Rangers failing to beat a Celtic B team with, as Mick said, I thought Celtic were pretty much defence aside awful. I mean, really, really dreadful.
I think they've been battered. Celtic have been battered over the course of both of these games, and yet found a way to survive. And that speaks to the sort of spirit and the character and the resolve and all the sort of words that you would use, that you would want to apply to your football team. If the chips are down, they just won't chunk. They will find a way to claw their way out of a situation. Mick's absolutely right in everything he says. When you look at them as football clubs right now, Rangers have fixed the foundations, but Celtic are crumbling from the top down. And that's the way it's been. The Americans have gone in, Andrew Kavanagh's gone in, he's taken a kind of blank canvas approach to trying to rebuild Rangers, and they will get there, and they have moved very quickly in the right direction. What happens between now and the end of the season, nobody knows yet. Danny Rowe could save himself if he can somehow, from a standing start, find some momentum and make an impact on what's the remainder of the league campaign. I think that's unlikely. I think that the two gut punches that they've just taken there will probably knock the wind out of their sails. And I'm not sure that Rangers have it within them now to recover from that and make a real tilt at the title and the games that remain. But Michael is absolutely right in what he says. If Danny Rowe survives and gets a shot next season, this is where Gianni's right. If he does, Rangers don't win the title, maybe come third, fourth, who knows. Danny Rowe will start next season right under the cosh, and a defeat in the first Old Firm game of that season could be really damaging for him. But it doesn't change the fact that Rangers have done most of the heavy lifting in terms of dismantling some of the mistakes that have been made in terms of the squad makeup, changing it, improving it in areas. Still some work to do, but quite a long part of the way down that road. Celtic, on the other hand, haven't begun the journey yet. And Martin O'Neill was just in charge for the time being. And as Mick says, it's all going to be determined by how Celtic handle that situation in the summer, because their need is going to be really great in the summer. And we know that just in terms of what the squad looks like, the clear areas that need to be improved, the amount of loan players that are in there. Next summer's massive for Celtic, and it could decide what the next 2, 3, 4 seasons look like.
Yeah. Well, see, on one hand, I kind of think it's a bit mad to even be talking about Danny Rowe being under serious pressure. But I mean, King Tubby, which is a great name, by the way, it's my nickname most weekends. Rowe, be happy taking the heat off. He'll be happy taking the heat off him. 1 win in 5, that's Russell Martin stuff. And it's 3 wins in 9, incidentally, for Rangers. I keep seeing that, Mick, the Russell Martin stuff. And as Keith says, if Rangers do finish, third or even fourth, is that no where Russell Martin would have finished anyway?
He was struggling to make the top 6.
That's true. That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, Russell Martin has a similar problem. It was the draws that done him in as well. I mean, a lot of games for draws, which that's where his problems came, wasn't it, as well? No, I think there has been an improvement in Rangers. I mean, listen, he had that spell when they won 8 or 9 games in a row domestically, and you could see the difference, and they were winning games quite comfortably at times. They came unstuck in recent weeks with some damaging draws again. I do think they are trending in a better direction than they were at the start of the season when they were chaotic. I think the window was in the summer was a nightmare. And saying that, some of the guys in that window who have now found their feet and are starting to show. I mean, Fernandes, I thought was terrific the weekend, absolutely brilliant. Looks like he's going to make him a fortune at some point. Even Chermiti is a frustrating character. I mean, he's got moments of quality. He can get bogged down in games, and I don't think he was that great at the weekend. But yeah, I think by and large there has been improvement. Listen, there has to be. They spent a bit of money, so there was going to be improvement, and they couldn't get much worse than at the start of the season. So I get it. I get why Rose under pressure, because again, it's back to what I was saying. The football I don't think was particularly pretty for a while, but they got results, and people will accept that. But if your football's not pretty and you're not getting results, you're going to be under pressure. But he's had to get by for a lot of this season. He needs a full pre-season and go from there. But I said there's not a lot to play for. I still think Rangers are still on this hunt. I'm interested to see how they respond to these two setbacks, because I mean he gets a bit prickly when he gets asked about the bottle question. Danny Rowe.
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
He doesn't like it, but he can't avoid it. I mean, there's two massive games that they've tripped up in.
It's a reasonable question, Mick. Surely.
Listen, but unfortunately for Danny Rowe, there's only one way to answer it, and that's to be standing with a big shiny pot above your head in the summer. That's the only way to answer it. Until he does that, he's going to get that on a weekly basis. And I don't win the league, they will get questions asked about the bottle. So he's a difficult position, but I think he deserves a wee bit of wriggle room, because he is trying to undo a bit of a mess from last summer. And I think there has been signs of progress, but the next few weeks is going to be really interesting, and it depends how they come back from this.
And on Celtic, Keith, Mark says in the comments, the biggest window in Celtic's history this summer. It's hard to disagree with that. They need the bulk of a new team, a new manager, new sporting director, and it's a World Cup year.
Certainly this side of the millennium, it's hard to think of a summer which will require more work, or has required more work than what will be required at the end of this season. And you've got to hope from a Celtic perspective that there are people inside the building right now who are fully aware of this and starting to do some preparation work for it. Because, it can't just be a case of Martin O'Neill leaves at the end of the season, turns off the light behind him, and that's it. There has to be people behind the scenes in there that are doing the planning work. And I don't know who that would be. That's a concern in itself. Unless Celtic have worked behind the scenes and they've been really professional for the first time in a long time, and they've actually identified the manager, they've been having talks with the manager, and the incoming manager has identified 5, 6, 7 players that he'd like to see coming in the way, that would be really professional. Does that sound like this version of Celtic? It doesn't. No. So that's what I'm saying. I think that there's so much work required to be done at Celtic this summer that it could possibly have a very long-term impact. And Rangers will feel that they've done that sort of heavy lifting, and they got a lot of it done. They've got a lot of it done since the new owners came in.
Celtic
fans will probably look at it and think they need something similar right now. A complete recalibration, a restart, and a potential takeover into the bargain.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut off you there, Keith. I was going to say, Rebel says in the comments, Mick, Martin O'Neill might stay next season, never say never. Based on absolutely nothing, I kind of have that feeling as well, just purely because there's so much needs done, that maybe it makes sense to maybe start with keep the management team for one more season that's already in situ, no?
What are you trying to do? The poor man. I think Martin O'Neill should put on a luxury cruise liner and give him a 12-month round-the-globe pass, all-inclusive, gold-plated, all-inclusive. A Skippy pass for the buffet, you name it. I think he should get the full works and totally enjoy himself after this year. I actually said to him on Sunday, so you get a full week's training after the first time since you come back. You're looking forward to it. He's like, I'm off till Wednesday. I'm not going to. I don't even want to be near the place for a few days. It needs a break. Listen, I think the summer. Listen, we're going to be talking about that for the next few months. Because Celtic have got a massive summer. They've done it before, right enough. I mean, Ange Postecoglou's first summer, he brought in 7 new starters in the first window, and another couple in the January. So we brought in Joe Hart.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike.
Juranovic, Carter Vickers, Jota, all came in the first window. Starfelt, and then in the second, in the January, they brought in Maida and Hatate. So he done nine new starters, pretty much a badder. 9 starters in basically 2 windows and won the league for 2 years in a row on the back of it. So it can be done, but you have to have I mean, Celtic's hit rate in the transfer market is now in about 1 in every 20. But back then it was about 11 out of 15 back then. So I've got a heck of a lot of work, but they've got a heck of a lot of work to get back in this title race. And they've got a heck of a big game at the weekend. They've got Motherwell at the weekend.
Aye.
who bust a lot of coupons on Saturday. And they're going to be without key men. I mean, Callum McGregor, I think now looks like he's going to miss a few weeks at best. I don't think he's going to come back. He's not back at the weekend. So, and you've seen how big a miss he was at Ibrox on Sunday, having played so well the previous week, in the second half in particular. So he's going to be a colossal miss. But the sound of things, I think he's going to miss a decent. An international break might help Celtic in that respect, give him an extra couple of weeks to recover. But I think it might be a few weeks before you see him again.
I think that's a hammer blow for Celtic's chances.
Well,
really big.
I mean, if at all, if it's the same injury he had, his Achilles, that's not a tear or a kind of or impact injury. That's a kind of wearing.
Rest is required. Yeah.
And if he's got to a point he couldn't play in a cup quarter final at Ibrox, you think this must be. This is a guy who was it 2 seasons ago he was carrying an injury and he was taking injections and he refused to kind of succumb to it. So it's a big blow. If it is to the end of the season, it's a colossal blow for Celtic. There's no getting away from that because there's nobody in there that showed that it can go anywhere near lacing Callum McGregor's boots. Never mind replacing them.
The upshot of yesterday's game, guys, is of course Celtic are in the semi-finals. They were drawn last night to play St Mirren. Last night on the show, one of us went for St Mirren to get through. One of us went for Partick Thistle.
I know I only get 3 out of 4, right? So
I know you couldn't resist that. I got it. Yeah. I got my St Mirren one. I'm happy with that.
And I tell you, I might throw another wee prediction at you. Martin O'Neill versus Neil Lennon in the final day of the season at the Scottish Cup final.
That would be remarkable.
Wouldn't it just be perfectly in keeping with this incredible season of craziness that we've had? Martin O'Neill Celtic versus Neil Lennon Dunfermline in the Scottish Cup final. You just wouldn't bet against it.
I know Celtic will be favourites, obviously, but I don't think it's a given that Celtic are going to win this. I mean, Falkirk collectively are a brilliant team this season. The Neil Lennon, it's not going to be easy, Mick, for Celtic.
You've dismissed St Mirren. Let's see.
St Mirren as well. Don't get me wrong.
St Mirren, who gave Celtic an absolute blow and torrid time in the cup final, the League Cup final to win the League Cup, and you've got Falkirk who had 2 games against Celtic and were absolutely robbed on both occasions, having bossed the game against Celtic twice, away, and walked away with nothing inexplicably. So very much it's not a given, very much so.
St Mirren going for the second cup as well. Imagine we had a season where St Mirren won both domestic cups and Hearts won the league. I mean, that'd be pretty mad.
St Mirren could get relegated.
St Mirren get relegated,
It's a good point, aye.
It is a kind of Alice in Wonderland season, isn't it? We've all we've tumbled down the rabbit hole this year, so anything could happen from here on in. But there's a few stories to come. It's not a lineup you probably would have predicted at the start, but listen, Falkirk have been they've kind of got a wee bit of credit, but I think Motherwell's kind of displays have kind of taken away. But it's Falkirk's displays this season, the way they play. I mean, I watched the last closing bit of the game the other night, how they dominated the ball and just seen it out. It was just like a proper team, football team. We're talking about Danny Rose, 80s revival. I mean, Falkirk.
By the way, Mick, you're absolutely right. If it wasn't for what Motherwell are doing, I think that there would be far much more attention on the way that Falkirk are going about their business. I watched them in the first game of the season against Dundee United, and I think I'd already tipped them before that right enough to get a top 6 finish this season, because you just knew that they were going to come up and they were going to play the game their way. They weren't going to feel intimidated by playing in the Premiership. And they have been phenomenal, a great addition. And because of what Hearts are doing, because of what Motherwell are doing, it's kind of when their stories kind of almost went untold. But here they are, still standing in the last 4 for the Scottish Cup. Maybe the story's not been written yet.
Yeah, and they're packing out their ground every game. I mean, sell out crowds. People are right behind it, loving it. It's they've been terrific. And they've got a great manager now. John McGlynn is. I remember doing a playoff game. They were coming up from League One, and I watched them, and they played the same way. And it's like you don't often see that kind of football at that level. And they've stuck with it all the way up the divisions, and they're still doing it. It's listen. I think they deserve enormous credit. A terrific team to watch. So we've got a great chance. I think about silverware.
I kind of fancy Falkirk, but Keith, do you think Celtic will eventually triumph, win the Scottish Cup?
Well, at the risk of becoming really repetitive and boring, I'm going to go and trot it out again. the Logan Roy test. You have to be a killer.
Yep.
And Celtic, it was, I referred to that before these two, I think it was before the two Old Firm games, that ultimately that instinct, that sort of thing that's been inbuilt into this Celtic squad is getting them through. And I think it will continue to get them through. Now, whether or not it'll be enough in the league, I'm not too sure. But I can't see anything else other than Celtic ending the season with a lap of honour at Hampden and Martin O'Neill clutching that trophy again, which in itself would just be a staggering thing and something that nobody ever imagined before this season. From this season of absolute mayhem dropped down onto their laps, no one would ever have pictured that to be possible. But I think it's more than probably how the story ends this season.
Rebo in the comments, Mick, says John McGlynn for Celtic. Could you see that?
Listen, John McGlynn, he is a disciple of Brendan Rodgers. He might not take it after what happened with Brendan after that exit.
How do you think Desmond might feel about the fact that he's a disciple of Brendan Rodgers?
Yeah, he's going to bring in Brendan as his number 2. It's going to be controversial next season. It's going to be slightly awkward. The first day of 3 seasons is going to be mega awkward. I think he's been terrific, John McGlynn.
Marty points out though John McGlynn's done amazing, but Askew, I mean, that will be a tough race for Manager of the Year between they two, you'd have thought.
We'll bring you big games. We get a big build up all week and how they're back in the title race, or in the title race, and now they go and blow it big style. They get absolutely stuffed by Big Elvis, who again another guy who's done a brilliant job. Having been started off right behind the 8 ball to get to the end where they are. He's done a terrific job as well.
And I guess actually I'm talking nonsense here. If Derek McInnes wins the league, surely he'd be Manager of the Year. I mean, it's just.
And if Martin O'Neill wins a league and cup double, then I think he's got an argument at 74. No,
aye, definitely. Aye, God, who knows what's going to happen?
Well, glad the voting gets done before the end of the season. Always that's an absolute nightmare.
Aye, absolutely. Well, look, for tonight, guys, I think that brings us to the end of Monday's Hotline Live. The comments, again, absolutely sensational. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you getting involved in the conversation. And we'll be back to do it all at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Mick, Keith, it's always an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Daniel.
Guys, thanks a lot.
Hope you can join us tomorrow. Thanks for watching.